So, I watched Four Christmases, the movie from 2008, and to be honest, this movie is chaotic, it's mean, and very disappointing for a holiday slash Christmas comedy. So, for me, I would rate it like a 4 out of 10, maybe even less, but I'll settle for the 4. And it's one of those movies where the premise pretty much does all the heavy lifting. And the actual movie, well, it just completely wastes it. On paper, it sounds like a pretty good modern Christmas comedy, good idea. But in reality, it's loud, it's mean-spirited, it's repetitive, and surprisingly, well, boring. I thought the movie was pretty boring. And that for a film that's constantly yelling at you, that's impressive. So let's start with what the movie is actually about. First off, we have Brad and Kate, who are a couple who have successfully avoided their dysfunctional families for years. They tell everyone they're off doing charity work or travel abroad for Christmas, when in reality they just want to skip the chaos entirely. And yeah, that's pretty cool. Honestly, that's relatable. That works. I think most people can relate to that. They are child free and commitment averse, I would say, and perfectly happy keeping their lives as simple as possible. So yeah, so far so good. And of course, everything goes wrong. Their tropical vacation is cancelled due to a fog, and to make matters worse, they're caught on live television at the airport. Their families see them, the lies unravel, and suddenly they are forced to attend four separate Christmas celebrations in a single day because both of their parents are divorced and remarried. So that's the hook. Four houses, four wildly different families, and one exhausted couple slowly losing their minds. So yeah, I'm down for that. But here's the frustrating part. The premise actually has some real potential. The stress of bouncing between families during the holidays. It's something that most people recognize, I think. I do at least. The awkwardness, the unspoken resentment, and the pressure to perform happiness, to act all cutesy patootsy. There's good comedy to be mined here, but well, unfortunately, Four Christmases chooses the laziest possible approach to this setup. From the very first visit, the movie establishes its comedic strategy as, embarrassment equals humor, yelling equals humor, and discomfort equals humor. That is not humor at all. I mean, it never really evolves beyond that. That's pretty much how they settle for humor in this movie. I mean, we have a church, what's it called? Church nativity play. Nativity play, yeah, I think that's what they call it. So there's this play, which the movie clearly thinks is one of the big comedic highlights. We have Kate, who is forced into participating in a children's Christmas pageant, singing awkwardly on stage while clearly being extremely uncomfortable. The joke isn't really clever, it isn't layered, it's simply, look how humiliating this is. It's not funny. The scene goes on far too long, and instead of laughing, I'm just waiting for it to end. So, yeah, that's the level of jokes we get. And then we have Vince Vaughn's brothers, who seem to exist for one purpose only, to physically assault him for giggles and laughs. I mean, they tackle him, they punch him, they wrestle him repeatedly, I might add. The first time it's yeah, somewhat amusing maybe, but by the fourth time it's getting really sad and yeah, annoying really. There's no escalation, there's no twist, it's just the same joke over and over again. And another reoccurring gag involves babies and children, and the movie's relentless insistence that not wanting kids is inherently ridiculous. There's this scene where Kate is pressured into holding a baby and she immediately panics. It's played as a broad physical comedy, but the joke is painfully obvious and stretched way past, what it should be. And instead of being, observational, it feels kind of judgmental, I think. Yeah, kind of judgy. And that's the kind of the movie's whole vibe here. That's what you get. Vince Vaughn does what Vince Vaughn always does, rapid fire sarcasm, talking over everyone, the constant deflection. It's Vince Vaughn, but it's Vince Vaughn on autopilot. And then we have Reese Witherspoon. She never really matches his rhythm, which makes, the chemistry feel really uneven. There's no balance to it. And, at times it genuinely feels like they're acting in two different movies. The supporting cast, I think we have some pretty talented actors. We have Robert Duvall, Sissy Spacek, and John Favreau. Yeah, that's what you say. That's how you say it. But they're all reduced to, caricatures. We have the loud dad, the passive aggressive mom, hyper competitive siblings. You've seen it, been there, done that, and none of them feel real enough to be funny because none of them really are funny. I mean, there's not enough depth to be interesting. And structurally, the movie becomes really exhausting because every Christmas visit follows the same pattern. Awkward arrival, chaos ensues, and someone yells, someone is embarrassed. They leave and, rinse and repeat. And by the third house, you already know exactly how the fourth one will go. There's no, something to look forward to. And despite all this chaos, the movie somehow manages to be extremely dull. It's loud but not energetic. And that's the problem, I think. It's busy but it's not engaging. There's no variation in the tone, no breathing room, and no real sense of progression. It is really dull. It is really a bleak movie. And then we get to the third act, which is where the movie suddenly decides it wants to have heart. And out of nowhere, Four Christmases pivots into a message about commitment and family and growing up. Kind of ridiculous. We have Brad and Kate's relationship drama comes to the surface, secrets are revealed, and the movie expects us to suddenly care deeply about their emotional growth, which, I didn't care about at all whatsoever. It doesn't work. The emotional turn feels rushed and unearned. And I hate it when movies do this. I hate it when they try to, flip something and try to pull your emotional strings and, get something they don't earn, It doesn't work like that. And after spending most of the runtime mocking family life and obligations, the movie suddenly insists that family is everything. Yeah, that's kind of weird, you know without doing the work to support that idea, even weirder. And despite the title, despite the decorations, despite the constant Christmas music, the movie never really feels Christmassy. It doesn't feel festive at all. It feels extremely stressful. It feels cynical. It feels more like a holiday obligation rather than, a celebration of, holiday spirit and all that comes along with it. And by the time the credits roll, I wasn't offended or angry, but exhausted. For Christmas isn't disastrous, but it's deeply underwhelming. It takes a pretty interesting premise, a talented cast really, and holiday setting, which should all work, but it turns it into something loud and repetitive and pretty joyless, really. So for me, this movie, it lands about a 4 out of 10. Maybe I should have given it a 3, but nah, I'll settle for the 4. There are a few chuckles here and there, but they're drowned by mean-spirited humor, lazy writing, and a complete lack of warmth. So if you're looking for a Christmas movie, something that feels more cozy, clever, heartfelt, or funny, then you should go look somewhere else because Four Christmases feels less like a holiday treat and more like something you sit through, like I said, out of obligation, which ironically is exactly what the movie is supposed to be making fun of, the irony of it. So, yeah, that's my take on the movie. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was helpful. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.